No, they were the 23rd. Yep. So when I read them, and does anybody got any corrections or additions? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to approve. Second, all in favor? Aye. Treasurer's report.
Thank you. The treasurer's report was fairly limited. We did get an application in July, so you'll see that that is the income. We had some pretty standard expenses with some dues and subscriptions. We had training we sent again to, and meeting and just some travel expenses associated with that. I think that's the last installment on the strategic plan. Am I right, Maureen?
Yes.
Okay, so we're all done with the strategic plan. We do have a draft that we're reviewing, trying to get into final form. So hopefully that'll be something we can do at the September meeting. Expenses 16,000. We're still ahead of the game and in the black for the year. Balance sheets behind it. Still got a decent cash balance. I don't want to say that too loud. No liabilities, so we're in very good shape.
Any questions for the director? Anything, Dave? Hey. Entertain a motion to accept. Second. Christie, all in favor? Aye.
Great, thanks. New business. So we have Brandon Cottrell here from Hodson Russ. He represents Horseshoe Solar, which is the solar development, 180 megawatt solar development in the town of Caledonia. It does straddle school districts. Avon School District is the larger portion of that. Caledonia Mumford is a very small portion of it. It also straddles county lines, so it goes into Monroe, into the town of Rush. You recall, town of Rush was battling this pretty hard. They've approved it. So whatever it was that they were coming up with at the time, they've kind of gotten past that. The hook, the interconnection will be at the Gola substation, which is in the town of Rush. I've got this at 172 megawatts. Livingston County, 8 megawatts. Oh, hey, Jim. Dave, I've got Jim. If you've got to go, I can dump you. Okay, great, thanks. 172 Livingston County megawatts, 8 megawatts Monroe County. So again, you can see the bulk of this is located in Caledonia. We've had several meetings with the town of Caledonia's council, with Invenergy and Invenergy's council. So things are kind of coming together. It wasn't clear whether the project hasn't been approved yet through ORES, but has been permitted. Is that correct? So apparently there's still another step beyond permitting, which is final approval, but it's getting close to being at that final stage. So it's time to start looking at the pilot and the benefits that they are requesting. It is a 30-year term, and we have vetted this with the town. The town is good with everything that we're proposing and have talked to Kate Millar from Invenergy about. So it would be a 30-year pilot. They are looking at a sales tax exemption. If you recall, we had the sales tax exemption with EDF. Remember, they were looking for such an exorbitant amount to make sure that they had enough cover. Invenergy, thankfully, I did talk to about this. You kind of asked. They said, I don't know why would we be looking for that large amount. A lot of this is already tax exempt. So by standards, it's significantly less than what EDF was looking for. It's actually a sales tax exemption of about 4.8 on a $400 million project. So it equates to a lot less than what EDF was looking for. And a potential mortgage recording tax exemption. At this point, what we've seen with solar is they aren't using mortgages, quite honestly, but we put it into the application so that it's in there and it's not something that we have to come back and get approved at a later date. Most of them are doing it via bonds or private funding or private equity, so it doesn't involve putting mortgages out there. Pretty straightforward project. We're looking to induce this project through an inducement resolution, and I'll have Ed explain that. And what this would do is say that, yes, it's a project that the agency is going to undertake, and we would set a public hearing. But before I do that, I wonder if anybody's got any questions about Horseshoe for Brandon.
So there's nothing for Rush on the rural district.
No, we wouldn't. They're not in our county.
Yeah, but I mean, they're still going to get some. They got a deal.
Yeah,
That's a negotiation. Yeah.
Or you would comply to, sorry about my voice, my allergies are destroying me, but.
So Kamita's got a very small piece of this. The rest is town, county, Avon School and Calhoun School. And yes, we've got it all set up on a potential pro rata share for the pilot. And the HCA, thankfully, it's all in one town. I don't have that benefit with White Creek. But in this particular case, it's all going to Caledonia. No questions for Brandon? Okay, Ed, do you want to cover the inducement
Yep.
resolution? Because it's got a little nuance. Oh, not on this one. I'm sorry, let's power.
So on this one, simply we're at this point, for this resolution, we're accepting the application. We're just looking, as Bill mentioned, a sale and use tax exemption, a mortgage tax exemption, and an abatement of the property. And it's a deviation as well, but we'll handle that in the final approval resolution. And then, and finally, we'd also be allowing to schedule a public hearing. It would be roll call.
Second. All in favor? And well, I vote aye. Jim?
Aye.
Aye. Kristen? Dave?
Okay. The public hearing, I just kind of quick looked at the calendar because I'm never prepared when you guys ask me this question. Based on publication, if we get it in very quickly here next week, we could be looking at the week of August 28th to August 31st. Our tentative meeting is September 1st, which is another piece of discussion that I wanted to bring up if you want to do that prior to Labor Day weekend, if it worked for everybody. But if you wanted to, the soonest I could do this hearing would be the 28th to the 31st, somewhere in there. So I can let you know what works with the town, because we will hold it in the town hall out in Caledonia. And supervisor did want to be there for it, so check his schedule as well. Okay. Good, I'll let you all know when it is. Glad I got you out of the office. Yeah, you're welcome to sit in on the rest of the meeting, but that's horseshoe.
All right, I'm back.
All right, thanks, Brandon.
Thank you, everybody.
We'll be in touch. And I'll let you know when we get the hearing signed. Super.
We can go for the approval of the budget.
There we go. So Power and Construction Group, as you recall, they're putting in a 20,000 square foot building up on their, I'll call it their campus on River Road up in Scottsville, well, town of Caledonia. It is an office and training facility for Power and Construction. Quite frankly, Power and Construction Group, from my conversations, has blossomed. If you recall, a couple of years ago, we did a warehouse for them where they were storing and inventorying utility equipment, transformers, things like that, whatever a utility might need. The issue was lead time, so they were storing it, but they were also giving themselves a competitive advantage so that when RG&E called or Grid or NICEAG called and said, hey, we're down out here or whatever, they could go to the warehouse, pick one up and bring it back online quickly and right away. So honestly, the phone doesn't ring for any other vendor, it rings for Power and Construction Group. So it was a pretty smart move on their part. And they are growing. So what they're looking at is a 20,000 square foot facility. Right again on the campus. It is going to, if you've ever been to their facility out there, it's kind of a weird setup. It's Livingston Associates is the umbrella agency. You got CP Ward at one end, you got Power Construction at the other. You got who's the sand, Valley Sand and Gravel stuck in there in a closet somewhere. And there's a couple of different companies. So this is going to pull P&CG out and put them in a facility of their own. So obviously they're folks at P&CG are very forward to it. It is a standard 10-year pilot. There's no deviation on that. It would be a sales tax exemption on the materials associated with it. And there is a mortgage recording tax exemption that's being requested. We did hold the public hearing. So the first set of business here would be to approve the public hearing minutes. It was just me. Nobody joined me. Sometimes I get to school, they didn't join. They did have some questions. I replied by email, nothing for the record. So the public hearing minutes were not eventful. There were nothing was entered on the record. So I do need to approve of that.
Motion to approve the minutes for this public hearing. Second.
That's it.
All in favor?
Aye. Great. Thank you. The next thing is the project criteria, so that should be in front of you. It looks like this. It's just a one-pager front and back. It is for Power and Construction Group. Again, the description was the 20,000 square foot new office building and training center. And we have to go through each one of these, just to make sure that the project does comply with what our UTEP policy, says. So the details, again, it's been growing for the past few years. The company's been warehousing inventory and found a competitive advantage in a niche with the utilities. So it does promise to bring good paying jobs to Livingston County. My answer to that is yes. Anybody's got anything else, please stop me so that we can justify it and put down some answers. Completion of the project will enhance the long-term tax base and make a significant capital investment. It will. Actually, the project is a $4.5 million project. So it's going to add to the tax base out there with the new building structure. And as far as long-term is concerned, when you put up a building, that is a good long-term investment for us. So my answer to that would be yes. The project will contribute towards creating a livable community by providing a valuable product or service that is underserved in Livingston. They are looking to expand their workforce with this project by 10 to 15. That's the range they've identified of additional employees over the 3-year period. The jobs are available to unskilled labor base, which is good for our demographic, and the hourly wage rates are in the range of $24 to $38 per hour, which is a good solid range. My answer to that is yes. The fiscal and economic impact. The exemptions are supported by a cost benefit analysis that shows a 63 to 1 ratio, which essentially means that $63 of their investment gets $1 of benefit. That's huge. The real reason for that is they're putting on some workforce, which has good long-term benefit for us. So that tends to add significantly to the cost benefit. So my answer there is yes. We usually look for a 5 to 1 on that, by the way, in excess. So that well exceeds. Is this a strategic or a targeted industry of the agency? Actually, it's not, but it does kind of deliver 4 essential industries in the area. It's just not a targeted industry. Obviously, we need the utilities. So my answer to that is no, but I do deliver that as an explanation. The project will give a reasonable estimated timeline. Yes, they would like to start today and they would be done within the year. So the answer is yes. Anybody have any questions on the statement of compliance? Anything that we need to change or argue or add discussion points?
Well, I think if you take a look at some of the tags on how electric bills, you could change the mode of gas.
Probably could, yeah. It's weird. Our targeted industries are more state driven than anything. We should probably even have energy on there. But it's not. It's really surrounding manufacturing and agribusiness and food processing, which is 90% of what they're looking for. So we haven't been able to answer yes to this one on a few of our projects.
Questions or comments? Take a motion to approve. Second. All in favor?
Aye. Thank you. The approving resolution, Ed, I'll throw that back to you.
Sure. So on power construction, we're looking to approve the granting of the financial assistance, which is comprised of the sales and use tax, mortgage recovery tax, and the pilot. And is the 10-year pilot or is it?
It is a 10-year pilot,
Okay.
not a deviation.
Yeah, okay. And with regards to that, it's noting that the public hearings held and they attached are the meeting minutes, which you've approved. And then additionally, one item, they don't have site plan approval yet, or that they don't confirm with site plan approval. They're typically the planning board acts as the lead agency for the seeker. We have to either accept the approval with regards to planning agency regarding seeker, or we can do our own determination for seeker in order to move forward. Since we don't have anything back from the planning board, my recommendation is we just agree to, and we did get an EAF back from them, environmental assessment form. So I would just ask this board in this resolution to approve finding that this is an unlisted action, and that it would not have a significant effect on the environment, and we did not negative tax. So and if for some reason the planning board finds differently, we can always go back and amend that.
as Ed's saying, we do have to have either the negative deck or a statement that there is no action necessary. So we can't move forward without it. So we're not asking to circumvent the process. We're asking to not wait another month and allow this to be approved. Once we do find out the information, they did forward over the EAF. Our reply was, has it been approved yet through the board? We have not. We're waiting on a reply from the planning board from that.
But
So
we're allowed to separately do our own approval.
we
So, which is what I'm recommending, so that way they can start, because they want to start purchasing equipment, so we want to go with transaction, so. The only risk there is really on them, is they don't get site plans, there's no project to move forward, so they're buying stuff or something. That's on them.
we wouldn't give them any benefit.
Right, yep. So, and so, yes, that's what we're looking for is approval of this resolution, granting the financial benefits and adopting a neg deck, determining it's a unlisted action and it's a negative declaration.
Just roll call.
Yes, it is.
Any questions, Fred, on that?
Pretty much he's got blue and yellow.
Exactly.
Yeah, there were two different types, but this is based on my reviews, to be an unlisted action, not a type 1 action. So it's the blue section. We're going to strip out the yellow. We were talking about this last night.
Yeah.
That's what we basically got option 1 or option 1 or option 2. It's the blue option.
We were waiting for planning board to get back to us.
Yep.
and-
Yeah. So the yellow is not.
Okay. Any questions on the project at all or on the resolution? Then it would be a roll call. Motion forward.
Ready for a motion? What do you think? I see you're still reading. Okay. You made the motion. Second. Christie, second. I vote aye. Jim.
Aye.
Aye. Christie. Dave.
Aye.
Carried.
Thanks. Sorry about the confusion on that. It's a little goofy. Village of Caledonia is all short enough. That's one of Ed's, but the
Yes.
town of Caledonia moves a little bit slower sometimes. So thank you for that. Next one is American Rock Salt. American Rock Salt is looking to got a couple of aspects of the project. This is right at the Hamptons Corner site out here in the town of Groveland, the mine. They are looking to increase the pile capacity by 60,000 tons, which is a fairly substantial amount. They also need to put up a new utility shed and an electrical shed. Some of the utilities are being upgraded, and I'll tell you about that in a second. The big thing that kind of stuck with me was that an increase of 60,000 tons results in 7.2 additional trucks per day carrying this salt, which is actually going to be about a driver and a half. They do move some of this over to the vaporizer plant over in Red Sox where it's bagged. And might be doing some of it to Mount Morris now, who knows? That's 1,875 trucks per year of salt. That 60,000 tons, to try and give you a little bit of scope on what this means, how much that would increase it. The electrical upgrades, there's right now, if they have a power issue, it shuts down the hoist from underground. This will allow a redundant line so they could continue to run the hoist and pull some of that salt up. So it's providing some electrical efficiencies that will save money and provide redundancy. The utility shed, as you can imagine, is probably going to be another loader around that kind of volume. The public hearing was held yesterday. My main man to my left helped me at the public hearing. We answered all the questions that came up, one of which were the only attendees, but we got caught up anyway. So I need you to approve the public hearing minutes, of which there was nothing entered on the record. Jerry and I were there for posterity's sake.
Second. All in favor?
Thank you. Next thing up is the compliance. So what we're looking at, this one is the 3-pager that's in front of you. The project title is CB 014. So it doesn't mean COVID or anything. I initially thought that might be some kind of code. It's not, it's just a project number. So there you've got the summary of the project itself. The project pledges to bring good paying jobs to Livingston County. They've got 339 FTE right now, which hovers around 400 total employees. It's probably looking at another driver or driver and a half based on moving that volume, so it's not a huge add to the staffing complement. But it is a union company and they do pay in excess of $34 an hour for production crews, so it definitely does pay a fairly good living wage. Completion of the project will enhance the long-term tax base. They continue to make investments here. The volume of salt certainly increases their ability to service more in the area, and we do think it's a good long-term investment. So I do have a yes for both of those. The project will contribute towards creating a livable community. Yeah, we have a lot of local folks from the area that seek these job opportunities. It does provide to skilled and unskilled laborers, which support our area demographics and our labor force. And they do recruit locally, so that is a yes for me. The fiscal and economic impact, this one's not quite as good as the 63-to-1 you just saw, but the exemptions are sales tax only. We're not doing anything with a pilot or a mortgage reporting tax on this. It's just a sales tax exemption on the construction materials that they need. And it is an 8-to-1 ratio. Again, I think my prior comment about when you add significant staff, it does drive that number north. This one's not a huge add to staff, but brings a good investment to the area. So an 8-to-1 ratio, which is still very acceptable. Targeted industry, mining is not one of our targeted industries. It's not many targeted industries. You can only mine where the resources are. So that is a no. And then the project will give a reasonable estimated timeline for completion. Yes, they're ready to roll. They do have to get site plan approval in the town of Groveland and cannot start until that's received for the construction of the buildings. But it will be done quickly. That's a yes. Any questions on the compliance? Anything that we should change or discuss? Hearing none, I guess we did everything. Motions, there's no questions.
Someone.
Second.
That's it. Thank you. This one's a very straightforward approving resolution. Ed, you want to take it or you want to?
You,
It's sales tax only. They're looking for potentially up to $380,000. It is a $9 million upgrade that they're looking to do. A lot of that again is related to the electrical infrastructure and the two buildings that they're putting up. So they have estimated that sales tax could reach as much as 380. That should give them plenty of.
it will be roll call.
And that'll be. Thanks.
Any questions on this? Anybody? Make the motion. Second.
Second.
All in favor? I vote aye. Jim?
Aye.
Dwight, Christie, Dave? Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Busy morning with IDA. Director's comments. Got a bunch. Project Mill. North of Barilla in Avon, they purchased the property. I don't know that you knew that. That may have happened since the last meeting. I don't remember. But they own it, which is always a good sign. Now it's about finishing off the capital stack. They need roughly 85 million bucks. Having some fits and starts with this. I feel like I've been on the phone with bankers all week and we're struggling with it. So we've reached out to the state. A little comment on the state is that I thought that they should be a little bit more forthcoming and less acting like a banker, more about bringing and recruiting a good company to this area, and they've been more about being a bank. So I candidly had lunch with Kathy Young, as I told Gary the other day, and just said to Kathy, can you tell me about this? And she said, the guy's like pushing a rock uphill. I get it. I understand exactly what you're going through. Call here first, don't call here, and she gave me a couple of pointers. So I'm working on those to try and figure things out. But it's still only a piece of that stack. These guys have a significant chunk of their own money going into this, like over 10%. So it's actually probably closer to 20. And that should be a very good sign. So I feel like there's a deal out there. We just got to find it and uncover it. So more to come. They own the property. That's the good news. It's a big project. 104 jobs still slated. We're just trying to tap into that vein. So anybody's got any creative financing ideas, I'm up for them all. So that's Project No. Livingston Correctional. We're standing in front, looking at the ribbon on the finish line, it's received all of the approvals that it needs. It's right now being reviewed. It was already reviewed by the AG's office. They blessed it. They sent it on to the office of the state comptroller, who's already blessed it back in January, but now they need to review it again for some reason, and it's sitting there as of yesterday still. So that notice could come to me now. It could come to me in a week. They said 3 weeks initially. I think actually the beginning of this week was just the start of 3 weeks. So I think we're right there. And I've talked to ESD about getting started on the agreement about transferring the property over. So I'd like to see a template or something so I can at least start to prepare and not get any surprises in the last minute. I still haven't seen that yet, but I've asked for it. So more to come, but we could be getting much closer on that than we were 3 years ago.
It'd be nice if they could take that over before cold weather sets in, because I know that there's going to be some.
See, I actually don't want to mow it, so I was thinking that maybe October would be a good time. So,
Still before the cold.
yeah, right. I was around the facility the other day, and there's some things that I want to put in the closing. That, give me some, this sounds residential, but give me broom clean condition and knock down the weeds for me the last time around and just kind of get it into shape. I'm kind of hoping the state will take me out. They've got keep 800 workers across the street. They could knock it down for me.
Get the heat system on.
Exactly.
At least April.
Exactly.
All set then.
The other thing I did was I touched base with the guy that was head of maintenance. He was about a year away from retirement from the state, and he said he'd be willing to help us, figure things out over there. Rob Stone's his name. I went to high school with him. So
does he live in Dansville?
he lives in Dansville. Yep. Great guy, knows the place inside and out. He was our tour guide for 20 of the 21 trips around the facility. So he has offered his assistance wherever he can in the meantime, but he might make a good maintenance guy if a company comes in and wants to have somebody oversee the whole place. In a year from now, he might say, yeah, I'd be willing to keep it up. Take my state pension too. So that's Livingston Correctional. Jane?
Those are getting your content respect.
Yes, weekly. I talk to them every Tuesday at 11 o'clock. We have a standing call. They are anxious, ready to go. I don't want to say the hang up, but we want to know any of the nuances that the state's going to hold us to before we can start talking to them. I mean, if the state's looking at us saying, and you can't do this, that, or the other thing, we need to know that before we can start to. So they're anxious to start negotiating, and it's like, I can't do that yet. I don't know what I'm negotiating against. So, but yes, Jim, I do have those calls weekly. They are extremely anxious. Not for, I guess I did receive some articles that the demand in the market for those prospects would be very lucrative for them. So I think that there's still a strong interest by them. James Steel Park Infrastructure. Stevie Morse has said yes to a swap of land for services. We've talked to MRB and the town of Avon. MRB is the engineer for the town of Avon, as well as Clark Patterson on there for us. DEC has said no problem. They've signed off on the connection to the sewer. MRB has reviewed the plans for the sewer connection and the stormwater. Said absolutely, we don't have a problem. You don't need any further approvals. Just give us a letter that we can take to the town board, let them know what's going on. So no problems there. They likely will want to monitor it, but they have not given me a potential cost for that. It really shouldn't be much. They work a lot with Stevie Morse. They like Steve. They like his work. They know Steve's a local guy. David Lefebvre was on the call and endorsed Steve well for us and said, we'd rather have him doing it than anybody else for that matter. So the two things that are still in flux is one, that monitoring expense, if there is one, I assume there will be. And two would be getting this up to condition to dedicate the road. Take that out of your mouth before you ask me about it in a second, right? And we went back to prior conversations about possibly pulling back some of the cover on the water line, putting an insulating layer on it, putting the cover back over. Everybody seemed to be fine with that on the call the other day. So the idea is, hey, while Steve's out there, let him do this too. So I'll be bringing you back a couple of those loose ends to talk about, but he is ready to move forward. I can see that beginning potentially as early as next week.
So then we'll have what, one lot left to sell?
Yep. Steve will have it, but we will have 6.31 acres on the south side of
Oh,
Interstate. Yep. Yep. And I've already got a prospect, Dave Finero, Place has talked to me again.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, he called the other day and it was hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, and then I haven't talked to him for 5 days. So if you're talking to him at all, let him know, hey, we could be ready to move on this. I'd love to have it lined up for Steve, so he knew exactly what he was getting and we could have a swap.
I'll reach out to him. I actually have to talk to him.
He called me, I called him back, left a message, and he never called back, so.
Yeah.
I know, not my first rodeo with him, so, in any event, I'd love to revisit that. Any questions about James Steele Park? You could see some dust flying out there in the next week or two.
Good.
Did you get a survey done?
No, and
Okay.
Kevin O'Donohue seems to be swamped, so I was gonna ask CPL if they had
Okay.
somebody they can send out there quickly.
Okay.
And I know you're waiting on.
Yep.
that. Do you have the metal work done yet, or
I'll check with them.
is that a day or two?
Nice.
Because I think you got the edge.
Have you got him licensed? Maybe Joe, I don't know, Joe, where his license going on, Joe Focus.
I've used Greg LaFleur here a couple of times. Greg still.
Depends on what the buyer wants to accept.
That'll be all right too.
I'll check.
Check out.
Okay, thanks. White Creek, we are meeting with White Creek next week. We've got a proposal for them. They haven't seen it yet. Their proposal is a little bit lower than the one that we've got, as you can imagine. So we're gonna be kind of hashing through that and trying to move forward, but more to come. So we're working on that one too. Hudson Russ does represent White Creek as well, so we may see Brandon again. Dan Spitzer and White Creek council. So
Did they ever get it set for the acreage? of This White Creek.
I have acreage that they've identified for me.
I've seen different maps, but I know that one had about 500 and some in Lester, but the other one didn't have that much in Lester. Doesn't make any difference. You'll see it shortly.
I can tell you that the assessment of the acreage in York versus Leicester is almost equal. I don't know about the total number of acres, which I do have that, but I was looking yesterday at the assessment numbers and they're just about 50-50.
So
So
it's probably close.
it's gotta be close, yeah.
The monastery was looking to go over 500.
The
So
difference is in production. So much of the production is in York and not as much in Leicester. There's a lot of easements and, lines that are gonna be run in Leicester and connections and things like that, but
And that I think was the part that was a little bit hard to understand when they made the presentation because of the percentages they show between York and Leicester. We had Leicester had a heck of a lot lower percentage of megawatts
almost 80-20.
compared to what York had.
Yeah, they did change the map though, to your point, Gary. Remember, Dave, the initial map that we got from the guy that's even no longer with White Creek? And it looked nothing like the other map that we pulled?
When Joe Green was doing it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It-
definitely different.
We sat at a meeting going, are these the same two projects? Because one looked completely different, but that was 2 years ago, I think. So
I seen that, and I've seen one at Morris in the spring. So they were different.
yeah, you may have been seeing an old one.
Well, no, I've seen the latest one, but I did see the old one too. That's why I'm wondering how much.
Yeah, I've got all that. In fact, we're working on it. I would have brought my folder down.
So is the line that goes across Joe Busey, is that buried or is that on those high line poles that they?
I understand.
All underground.
All underground?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand it can be buried as well. With no production on that. Which is kind of,
Next week too, we're also, Lester is also working with White Canyon, our consultant, to set up the beginning negotiations for the road use agreements and things like that. I'm not sure if York in on that, yeah, just to kind of an FYI.
They are in on it. I did push Jerry to Dwight as well. Dwight did a great job with the Caledonia project, and it being same council, I think he's just gonna kind of reduce any headaches. They all speak the same language now, so I think you'll find that Dwight's ready to go on that.
Well, and the great thing about the White, I mean, we've had engagement with him right from the beginning of this. Certainly on top of all these, the finer points.
I agree. He's been excellent to work with. Last one is Dansville Solar. So that goes to the ZBA for a public hearing on Thursday, the 18th. They could take action after that for a special use permit. That's the only thing that they've got to issue. Other than that, the project's in compliance. The last time they did not take action at that meeting, so it might be that they delay it for another month. I can see them doing that, and we're probably looking at September action on that. But it was interesting at the last meeting, Henry from Hudson Russ, Dan Spitzer from Hudson Russ all showed up at the Dansville ZBA meeting. So they had a lot of high powered attorneys at that one. So we'll see what comes from that. That's the last update I've got.
Any work on the sale of the rest of the property? Back part.
Yes, actually, I met up with him, it's probably been a couple weeks now. I did ask him for an offer, which I have not received yet. I wanted to start with him first. He would like it as is. I talked to him about us logging it first or him logging it or buying it as is, but we were going to be able to take in consideration of what we could pull off of there for logs. Dave, I'm still using your estimate. So I'm kind of waiting to be able to adjust it to get that. Good. I might have some more for you on that next meeting. Anything else?
Did you want to talk about this next meeting, September 1st?
How does that look? It's before the Labor Day weekend, so I could move it to after Labor Day weekend, or I could keep it before. Okay.
First is fine to me.
All right, and I'll keep it on the first. We'll get it done before the weekend. Sounds good. If anything comes up or if anybody's got any issues with that or makes arrangements, let us know. We can always move back.
Okay, motion to adjourn this meeting till September 1st.
Until this meeting is September 3rd.
Second.
Second.
Okay, I'd like to open up the Livingston County Development Corporation meeting.